I've been really stressed eating this pizza and spilling something on my shirt, so I'm really grateful that didn't happen, and it's still clean. Great crowd today. Thanks for the laughs. All right, hi. My name is Chantal. This clicker's not working right now. So I'm from Switzerland. I grew up in Switzerland originally, and I moved here 8 years ago. So if I say something stupid, it's not because I'm stupid, it's because I'm a foreigner. So give me a little bit of credit. English is my second language. So I want to kind of talk to you about my side hustles, what I do on the side, just to give a little bit of what makes me me and why I do the things I do. My biggest and most time-consuming side hustle is my family. I have a 3-year-old daughter who is very dramatic and very emotional and just like me. And I have a 10-month-old son who is super chill, eats anything you put in front of him, and couldn't be more opposite to her. Another thing I kind of do on the side is hand lettering, and it gives me a really great creative outlet and a great change from what I do in my day-to-day work. I don't do any research, I don't do any user consultation, I just do whatever I want to do, and so it gives me kind of an outlet and brings me back into a creative mindset and ready for the next day. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and follow me on Instagram. Another thing I really enjoy is the outdoors, and from snowboarding to wakeboarding to hiking to dirt biking, anything outdoors I really enjoy. And this year is a big year for us because we're planning to hike the Grand Canyon rim to rim in one day. So maybe I'll let you know if that goes well. My day job, I work for the LDS Church, and I work on the mobile team, so I work on the mobile apps. And the biggest app I work for the biggest app is the Gospel Library app. Who's heard of the Gospel Library app? Great. So for those that haven't heard of it, it's a studying tool, or more a library, but it can do a lot of things. So it has basically all the LDS content you'd want and more, because you probably don't want all this stuff, but it still has it. And you can listen to it, you can read it, you can highlight it, you can mark it up, you can take notes, you can tag it, you can link things to each other, you can do so many things on it. And so that's kind of what that is. I brought some swag. So I have a water bottle, I have some socks, and I have a battery pack. So I'm going to ask you some questions, and whoever comes closest to the answer can come up and pick one of the three. First question is, how many monthly active users does Gospel Library app have?
3.3 million. 20 million.
Who said 3 million? That's pretty good. 3,202,625. That was last month. So come up, grab your thing. What do you want? The socks. Of course, I should have just brought three pairs of socks, right? So last year we jumped the threshold to 3 million, and that was really exciting for us as a team. And so we hope to keep growing, but that's a pretty good amount of people. So whenever we talk about, oh, it's only 3% of our users that do this, it's still a pretty big group of people that use features. So next question, what's the split between platforms?
40-60. 40-60.
The split between platforms. So how many Android users and how many iOS users?
70-30. 40-60.
70-30 what?
70-30 iOS 70. iPhone 70 and 30. Android 70. Android 70. iOS 70.
80 Android and 20 iPhone, so I'd shift that to 75-ish Android to 25-ish iPhone.
No.
75 iPhone, 25.
No.
60-40.
50-50. Who's surprised? I was surprised. I was like, really? Wow, that's crazy. But Do you notice that it's only 49 something? Where does the rest go?
Windows.
Windows. Oh. Fun fact, Windows efforts, we don't put any effort into Windows. Those are all volunteers, all volunteer work, and they just kind of do it on their own because they want it, and we just let them have at it. So come grab your prize. What do you want?
Water bottle.
Okay, last question. How many languages does Gospel Library support?
32. 84. 46. 89. 12. 111. 108.
111 is the closest we got. It's 116. Which is kind of insane. That's a lot of languages to support. And of course, we don't have the same amount of content in all the languages, but we still support at least some of it. So congratulations to everybody that got close and got a prize. And thanks for participating. Okay, so another app I work on is called LDS Media Library. We just launched this December a year ago. And we're working on a redesign that's now in beta. It's an app created for teachers in the classroom that they can go in and find music or audio or videos and also images so they can put it in a presentation and then easily share in the classroom. We just this week achieved AirPlay capabilities with the second screen, so that is going to be really, really nice. And then you can also trim videos to show just the exact minute of that video that you want to show. And then one other thing I do, I just took over as the mobile channel lead in the organization, which means I help with making sure that all our apps look and feel the same, use similar patterns so that we don't have to have 5 different search bars out there and just coordinate that way a little bit. And so I work with the team to create UI kits. And what that means is create components for everybody to use. And this week was very exciting because Sketch libraries on Sketch Cloud, yes. So that was going to make distribution a lot easier for us. Also, if you're interested in the mobile space and you have mobile experience, talk to me after because we're hiring. So. Okay, how to be an ally. I wanted to give this talk because in my career I've had really, really good allies, and I've also had people that have backstabbed me. And I'm sure you've all had that, right? We've all been in situations where we felt attacked, and we've all been in situations where we felt like someone had our back and someone supported us. And what I wanted to do today is just share my experience, share what I've appreciated that other people have done for me, and just give a little bit of my insight and a little more awareness to how things might come across or how things might feel to also a female in the workforce. So the relationships that I'm pulling from today are going to be primarily between design and development, but also design and design, junior designers to senior designers, and how you can encourage that way. And also peers, how do you treat your peers? And then also female and male coworkers, because that can be kind of tricky, and sometimes it's more that we just don't know how to react and not that we want to react poorly. So my first point is to give people a voice. As a junior designer, it was so important for me to have someone ask me, hey, what do you think about this? Or go and design this thing and then we'll talk about it. Or hey, we're having a brainstorming session, come join the room and just be part of it and throw out ideas. Someone that encouraged me to speak up and kind of create my own voice was really important for me. And I have an example from my very early days, so you can go ahead and laugh. These were screens that I designed as an intern, and it's not just that they're old, because they were terrible when they were right at the right time, and I can point out so many things that are wrong with it, but instead of telling me, dude, you missed a mark, like this is not working, you're an idiot, I don't know if design's the right thing for you, he said, okay, why did you decide to do this? Why did you decide to put this huge button there? Why is this so big? Why is this the way it is? Why does this look like this? You know, he tried to help me create my own voice, and he tried to help me figure out how to improve things, and not just, he didn't just tell me that I was wrong, and he didn't just micromanage me and tell me you need to go change this, and this, but he helped me figure out and see why it was wrong, and he helped me figure out that if I couldn't defend my designs, then maybe there was something wrong with it. I needed to be able to give a reasoning and be able to defend why I made these choices. Brings me to my next point too. This is giving people a voice. Sometimes the best thing to do is just to shut up, because then they have to talk. And so that way you're kind of passing the baton and giving them the opportunity to talk, and that way you're giving them a voice. I want to share an experience that I had at work, and So I was sitting in one of these. You've all been there, it's fun. I want to introduce you to the people in the room. There's me, there's Nigel, and there's Greg. Names have been changed for their protection. The meeting was about coordination between development and design and the business, and making sure the business was happy with the design, making sure that developers had everything they needed to get started, making sure design knew where to go next and what to explore next. You know, one of those coordination meetings we all love. So the question came up. Nigel asked the room, is this going to be ready? I don't know if you're going to be ready in time. So I speak up and I say, yeah, I do think that we'll be ready, because we already have a lot of design work done, and it's just finishing up and making sure developers are on board, and I think we'll be ready. And instead of taking that, he looks at Greg and kind of in this, is she crazy? Can I trust her? I don't know if, like, what's her deal? And I later talked to Greg about the situation, and he said that he could feel the look. You know how you can feel when someone's looking at you? And he felt the look, and he just thought to himself, you hurt the woman. I don't need to say anything. What she said is right. And he, with doing that, just saying nothing at all and not even acknowledging that there was a problem in the room, he set a standard. And he set the standard on our team that I was to be respected as an equal contributor in this team, and that I was just as competent as anyone in the room. And I really appreciated that. For me, as a female in the workforce, it can be really hard to feel that insecurity and to feel belittled. But he did not let that happen. He was my ally, and the greatest ally I could have had in that room. Next point, number 2. Ask for input. So asking for input is kind of a way to give people a voice. It's a way to get them to pull out what they're thinking about. And so between design and development, it's really important to get the developers on board, right? Because they don't want to work on your baby. They want to work on their baby. We all want to work on a baby together because it's more fun. So ask what they want to do, ask where they want to go, and ask for their input on your designs. At the church, it's really tricky because it's a huge organization. I don't even know how many people work for the church, but it's huge. And so we have these 2 offices. One is in Salt Lake and one's in Riverton. And it's tricky to put people in the right teams, because these people have to sit with these people, but then these people have to sit with these people, and these people have to sit with these people, and these people, and then it just keeps going and going and going. And so at some point it was decided that Riverton was just going to be the software hub. That's where the developers sit, and that's where that kind of happens. And then in Salt Lake was going to be all design and stakeholders and product managers and that kind of aspect of the work. So I try to split my time between the 2 to make sure that I get face time with my developers, to make sure that I'm just not this obscure voice from across the WebEx telling them what to do and telling them how to work. And so it works out really well for me, because that way we can really come up with ideas together, and that really helps to build unity in the team. So I have a little example. The other day I was sitting with our Android devs, and we have this problem on Android when you very first install the app, you don't have any content. The catalog has to load first. And what you get stuck with is this loading screen that just keeps moving across, and nothing's happening, and you don't know how long it's going to take, and you don't know when you're finally going to be able to get into the app. So what we knew we wanted was a real progress bar and a time remaining. So we slapped that on there. And then we thought, wouldn't it be kind of nice to introduce something fun and something that was more delightful than just a static screen? And so we created this GIF, and we were really excited about it. And it was just kind of something that happened because we were talking, and because we were right there, and because we could just work on it and drop it over, and it's just kind of something that happened because we were close to each other. Point number 3, be interested and try to learn and understand. We all live in different worlds. We all live in our own little world, and we all come from different backgrounds, different cultures, different disciplines, different roles, different ages, different everything. We are all so different, and we all live in our little world. And so we need to really try and learn to understand each other, and to really learn where we're coming from, and why they ask the questions they ask, and why they ask the questions in the way they ask the questions. Sometimes it feels attacking, but it's really not, and so really trying to learn where other people are coming from, and why they are the way they are. Have you ever been to an event where you felt completely out of place? You just felt like a noob, or the odd one out, or just like you wanted to leave because you just felt like it wasn't your thing? Sometimes that's a little bit what work feels like for women. Depends on the team, and it's not always, but sometimes that happens. I had an experience in my last job where I came up to a group of guys talking, water cooler type of talk, and I came up to the group, and it just stopped. Crickets as soon as I came up to the group, and I was like, okay. It was awkward. I didn't know how to react. They didn't know how to react even, and I don't even think that they meant to do that to me. They didn't mean to belittle me or make me feel stupid. They didn't mean to exclude me even. They just didn't really know how to react and respond. And so I think just learning about other people's situations and trying to understand what they're thinking about and how they think and how they feel, and be more aware, so that when situations like this come up, you know how to respond, and you know how to react because you're aware of your surroundings. You know what's going on around you, and you're not just shocked and don't know how to move on. Another point to learn to understand each other is this example. So on LDS Media Library, we had to come up with an iPad way for this screen. So this is the presentation screen. This means that you can pull in any asset, any type of content, and lay it out the way you want to present it later in your classroom. And we needed to find a way to translate this to an iPad. So came up with this, and we thought, oh, this is so beautiful. This is going to work great. And we use all the real estate in an effective way, and we're really giving the user what they need, and so it's just going to be awesome. Guess what my developer said? Nah, dude, that's not going to happen. Guess what I said? But I've seen it done. You know you can do it. How many people have reacted that way to their developers? Yeah, I did it just the other day, and then I had to catch myself and think, no, wait, don't say that. But it's hard because you do see things on other apps. And if you don't try to understand why things are the way they are, then it's hard to understand why it can't be done. So in this particular case, because we have, let me go back. Because we have this bottom tab bar, so that tab bar is our main navigation. We have the browse, my media, and search. And those are our main pieces of navigation. And to throw a split screen navigation into that navigation is really, really hard. And it's really time consuming, and it can be done. Anything can be done in software, but do you want it done for the cost? And so that was what we were trying to understand. You know, my developers really tried to understand where I was coming from and what the design needed, and then I tried to understand why it can't be done and what the consequences really were of implementing it that way. And so instead of forcing it through, we landed on this. And it still gives the user exactly what they need. The development time was much, much shorter and much easier to implement because guess what? This isn't the only screen that we had to finish before beta. So it really gave us a good balance and helped us compromise and also come closer together as a team because we figured it out, you know, we hashed it out. We didn't just walk away from each other, but we talked it through and we came out of the fight winning on both ends because we learned to compromise as a team. My point number 4 is admit when you don't know something. And that's really hard sometimes because imposter syndrome, right? We all have it. We all think that everybody else knows that we don't actually know what we're doing. And maybe we don't actually know what we're doing, but maybe they don't know what they're doing either. And that's totally fine. But isn't it hard sometimes when a designer comes up to you and says, hey, have you heard of this new tech company? Have you heard of this designer dude? And you're sitting there, no, I haven't. Does that mean I'm a bad designer? You know, so admitting when you don't know something, it's totally fine because it's impossible for you to know everything in the world. It's just sheer impossible. So being able to admit that you don't know something helps other people teach you, and then you can teach other people also. So it creates this environment of community and teaching each other and not having to be held back because you're scared that they will feel like you're stupid. This goes back to my early days, and it's an embarrassing story, but I'm gonna be vulnerable right here. When I first started, my developer came up and said, hey, I need all the drawables for the different sizes. And I was like, what? Drawables what? And so I tried to go back and find what I could find on the internet, but it just didn't make sense to me. And I was like, this is weird. Why do I have to export all these assets in all these different ways? So for those of you who don't know, and it's okay to admit that you don't know, because if you don't work in apps, why would you know? So it stands for low density, medium density, high density, extra high, extra high, extra high. And the reason why we export assets this way is to accommodate for all the different screen sizes, the different resolutions in Android, because in Android there's a lot more variety than there is in iOS. You know, in iOS you have the iPhone and the iPad, and there's a couple different ones in there, but that's it. And in Android you have a wide variety, and so to make sure that that your images all show, or your assets show up the right way, you have to export it this way. So after a little bit of time on the internet, not really making sense of anything, I went back to my developer and I was like, I'm not really understanding what this means. I don't really know what the specific sizes are that you need for these terms, because these are really just words and they're not giving me specific sizes on how to export anything. And guess what? He was so happy to explain it to me. People love talking about their craft. This is what he does for a living. Of course he was happy to explain to me how to export it. He didn't think I was an idiot. Maybe he did, I don't know that actually. But he was happy to explain it to me either way. And so admitting when you're wrong is not a bad thing. It just creates a community of being vulnerable and teaching each other and being more aligned and being allies for each other, because helping you out helps me out, and then it just keeps paying forward that way. Number 5, give good feedback and take it well. It's hard to take feedback, and sometimes you don't want to hear it. My husband always says, do you want me to tell you the truth, or do you want me to lie to you? And of course, I want to hear the truth. I don't want lies, because what are lies going to do for me in the end? I need to know what I'm not doing well so that I can improve. But it's hard because we're prideful a little bit, and then we also feel a little bit stupid. So taking feedback is really hard. I have a feedback form example for this point. With Gospel Library, we get a lot of feedback, and it's hard to categorize it because it just floods in, and there's no way to, I mean, there are ways to kind of filter out a little bit, but we wanted a better way. So we designed this feedback form that would give you the ability to choose a category and then your description. And then I had this idea. Look at these cool chips at the bottom. You can tap the envelope and get into a sign-in, and you can tap the attachment and attach a screenshot. And I took it to the developers, and so the problem with this, first of all, was that I designed it months ago, and it got deprioritized, and it came back up in priority. We didn't have Android screens, and Android was spearheading it, so they just kind of went out and did whatever. And then we had to take that back and say, well, let's align between iOS and Android. So that was our first mistake. And then when we started looking deeply into these screens, it totally didn't make sense anymore. Why do I need to know what the name of my image is? That gives me zero value. So the developers brought that up, and I was like, yeah, you're right. You're right. It doesn't give me value, so let's not do it that way. And so we ended up, now we're just going to do a counter. Basically, it gives you a number of how many attachments you have on this. And then the second problem, which is a really big problem, email address is a required field to submit feedback, but then it's hidden in this envelope thing, and it's actually not a huge problem because a lot of people are signed in, and then we would just pre-populate and just pull out their email address. But if you're not, then it's not super discoverable, but you can't submit anything unless you discover it. So that was a big issue. I was like, you guys are right. We shouldn't be doing this way. And I really tried to take their feedback and run with it. And so we decided to, when you're signed in, you'll see this. And when you're not signed in, those two fields just pop up on top of the form. So when you're signed in, you don't get the clutter of the extra fields that are already pre-populated. But when you're, what did I just say? When you're not signed in, when you're signed in? Either way, you know what I'm saying. Give me feedback. Number 6, and this is my last point. Right before Todd Reynolds left Church Employment, some of you know him, he gave me this advice, and it has really stuck with me. Be confident, but also humble enough to recognize the value in others. And we all bring value. We all bring value in very different ways. Sometimes not very different ways. Sometimes we bring value in very similar ways. Sometimes we bring value, sometimes you don't see initially what value we bring, but it develops. And sometimes, we all have something to give. We just do. That's just a fact. We all have something to give, and it's different. And sometimes people have different things to give, and sometimes the way they give it is hard to hear, but that's okay because it helps you grow. And it is impossible for one single person to know everything and bring all the value a team could ever need. And that's why this diversity talk that we've been hearing so much about lately is so important, because if you surround yourself with people that think differently from you, then you have a much better chance at producing something that will fit the people, that will fit other people and not just your type of person. So I hope that you got something out of this talk. I hope that in this talk you were able to see situations in a different light, and I hope that we can all go out and build an alliance with our teams, that we can all go out and be focused on being allies for other people and being aware of other people's needs, other people's values, just being more aware of the people that are around us and the people that are on our team, so that we can build kick-ass products and that we can just hack it out and be awesome as a team and really love our team too. Because when we are focused on being allies for others, our insecurities go in the background, and our pride and all of that stuff that we focus on so much oftentimes just kind of disappears, because we are focused on making someone else's life a little bit better or a little bit easier and helping others be what they should be. So I hope that you got something out of it. Thank you. Oh, sure.
Yeah, wonderful talk. This was great. We have a little bit of time for Q&A. If you do have any questions, I will be mic runner.
Great, thanks. Bryce Hansen with the Salt Lake Small Business Development Center. Appreciated the presentation.
Thanks.
Very nice. So my question is kind of around culture, and usually with development teams in different companies, there's usually a pretty open culture, less hierarchical nature. Now you work for the LDS Church, so how do you kind of navigate that to kind of have an open, kind of maybe free-for-all ideas, etc. And how do you kind of handle that and kind of walk that line within the LDS Church, because it is hierarchical.
Yeah.
And you're in an industry really for a profession that's a little bit more wider, more open.
Yeah. Thank you. So it's tricky, but I think that the first part is that you hire people that have that mindset of wanting to work well together and not wanting to get into political things, because our team has to deal with a lot of political things, and we vent as a team and then we get over it and work as a team. And so our product manager is really awesome and gives us a lot of ownership over the team. And we're not structured in a way where a lot of the rest of the organization, we're actually kind of in a lucky spot, because a lot of the rest of the organization is structured very top down, and the product manager has all the say and you just go and do. But our team is very open that way, and he gives us a lot of ownership, and we can bring up points to him and really try to, I think it's a mindset thing. So our team just has that mindset, and so if you can find people that have that mindset, I think that you'll be golden.
I'm Danny Hatch. I'm a professor down at UVU. I keyed into that thing where you talked about at the very first about a manager kind of gave you legitimacy, the engineer. I have to counsel students all the time about how to get jobs. How do you get into, how did you break into this, and how did you, make it in terms of working with development groups and so forth?
So I kind of got lucky, which is hard to replicate. I got an internship while I was still in school with a startup, and so I kind of just slipped into that field, and then I kept going because I really liked it. So I tried to reach out, and I tried to go after jobs that are in this sort of space. And it's hard, it's tricky, but you just have to keep going. You have to keep pushing. I think that's really the key. You can't, because you'll be disappointed. And you'll go through disappointment after disappointment sometimes, and you just have to keep going, because if you don't keep going, it'll never happen. But if you keep going, then you can get there. So it's really about pushing through.
Okay. Well, let's give it Chantal another round of applause.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. It's great.
I'm going to do one final just